welcome to the weekend edition of News Showcase. I am Priya, Tamil Nadu's first artificial intelligence news presenter. The Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, made sharp attacks on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his BJP a day after he was granted interim bail. According to reports, he said the BJP's strategy was to crush his Aam Aadmi party, but it will keep growing the more they try to crush it. He said the BJP's strategy was to jail all chief ministers belonging to the opposition parties. He also said the BJP leadership will target prominent leaders in its own ranks if it wins the ongoing national elections. Kejriwal also hit the campaign trail and has time until June 1st to seek support for his party and the opposition India bloc, which he backs. More than 1,000 supporters had gathered to greet him as he left Tihar jail on Friday, where he spent nearly 50 days. He was arrested in March on charges of corruption in the liquor contracts made by his government in Delhi. Kejriwal also visited the famous Hanuman temple at Connaught Place in the heart of Delhi. People in Tamil Nadu are flocking to hill stations to escape the heat wave that's been sweeping the state since the onset of summer. Kodaikanal, a popular destination among budget holidaymakers, has been seeing a surge in visitors in the past weeks. It is not just the heat, but the annual holiday season for students is also pushing up the number of visitors. To keep the numbers within manageable levels, authorities have introduced an entry pass for those arriving by their own vehicles. But visitors reaching the hills by state-run buses have been exempted from the rule. Kodaikanal and Ooty are the state's most prominent hill resorts, which draw visitors throughout the year. Both were developed by the British and still contain many signs of India's colonial past. A BJP leader in Karnataka who leaked sexual abuse videos of lawmaker Prajwal Ravana has been arrested. Devaraj Gowda was taken into custody after a 36-year-old woman said in a complaint that he harassed her while trying to help sell a property. According to reports, in spite of Devaraj tipping off the BJP about the lawmaker's sexual misconduct, its electoral ally Janata Dal Secular nominated him to run for parliament. Devaraj is the third politician to be named in the scandal that has rocked the state politics in the midst of the national election. Reports say an international notice has been issued to find Ravana, who left India in the wake of the scandal, and his father, who was also named in the case, has been jailed. Indian security forces in Kashmir are continuing their search operation for the sixth day after the ambush on a military convoy last week. Army troops and elite units armed with high-end weapons are plowing through dense forests to hunt down the attackers. The security forces activated the highest level of alert in Poonch district in response to the ambush. Reports say the action is taking place at a high-altitude terrain, and the security forces believe the insurgents are hiding in the forests. Earlier this week, government forces detained 6 suspects and engaged gunmen in several firefights in the forests. The army and other security units have been battling an insurgency led by separatist militants opposed to Indian rule in the region. Images and videos showed a massive crowd built up on the narrow hillside path to Yamunotri, a sacred site in India's Uttarakhand state. Devotees have been thronging the holy sites of Chardham after the temple doors were opened for worship on Friday. According to reports, devotees have been waiting in long queues for several hours to pray at the temple. Many of them said the authorities had not given importance for the safety of pilgrims, and they said temple staff were not seen anywhere to regulate the crowd. With space for vehicles not clearly marked, pilgrims said parking of cars was a challenging experience at the site. The pilgrimage is undertaken by millions of Hindus every year during summer and before the onset of winter. Thailand, a popular East Asian tourist destination, has extended visa-free travel for Indian citizens by 6 months till November this year. The program was first announced in November last year to revive tourism and boost revenues. India is among the top 5 sources for tourists in Thailand. Besides the capital Bangkok, several scenic locations in the country are a hit with tourists from India and around the world. Several countries in the region had rolled out visa-free programs after their tourism sectors were battered by the COVID-19 restrictions. Malaysia and Sri Lanka are the other Asian destinations. Mauritius and Seychelles in the African region also welcome Indians without visa. The United Nations General Assembly has called for Palestine to be admitted as a full member. Since 2012, it has been granted non-member observer state status, which confers some privileges but does not grant full membership. The UN Security Council is the sole body that can decide on membership. A bid for full membership was recently blocked by the US, but Friday's vote can be interpreted as a show of solidarity for the Palestinians. Mahmoud Abbas, the president of Palestine, praised the resolution and said it backed Palestinian attempts to have the Security Council take another vote on the matter. The move coincides with reports that several European nations intend to acknowledge the existence of a Palestinian state. Israel has ordered more civilians to leave Rafah city in Gaza, which signals a possible deeper military strike in the region. Over 1 million displaced individuals are taking refuge in the southern city, where the Israeli military has already carried air attacks. The UN said more than 80,000 Palestinians have left Rafah since Monday, after Israel issued an evacuation order in advance of a military operation. Amid growing global calls for restraint, especially a sharp warning from the US, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said his country was ready to fight on its own in Gaza. The US has halted the supply of some weapons to Israel due to concerns that a military operation would cause large-scale civilian casualties. The United States has said that during the Gaza war, Israel may have violated international humanitarian law by using weaponry that it had provided. According to the State Department, it is reasonable to assess that Israel has utilized weapons provided by the US in ways that are inconsistent with its obligations. It also stated that the US government's assessment lacked complete information. After a delay, the report was finally delivered to Congress on Friday. It said, Israeli efforts to prevent injury to civilians have been deemed inconsistent, ineffective, and inadequate. Throughout the early months of the conflict, Israel did not fully cooperate with U.S. efforts to maximize humanitarian aid into Gaza. The use of U.S.-supplied weapons since the beginning of last year was examined in the study that was commissioned by the White House. The Taliban, which governs Afghanistan, has said flash flooding in the northern parts of the country has resulted in at least 60 deaths and over 100 injuries. After intense rains struck 5 districts in the province of Baghlan, scores of people are still unaccounted for. There are concerns that the death toll may increase as 2 more storms are predicted to hit the area. Images shared on social media revealed the devastation left behind by rushing water that swept across homes in multiple settlements. Over the past 2 weeks, the nation has seen exceptionally high rainfall, and since mid-April, floods have claimed the lives of over 100 individuals. Every year, Afghanistan has torrential rains and flooding that claim lives, with poorly constructed homes in remote rural areas being especially vulnerable. Donald Trump's youngest child, Barron Trump, has turned down an offer to be a delegate at the Republican National Convention, which picks the party's presidential nominee. A statement from his mother, Melania Trump's office, indicated the 18-year-old was honored but declined the offer due to previously scheduled commitments. The event would have otherwise marked the political debut of the youngest member of the Trump family. Reports said the boys' half-siblings, Donald Jr., Eric, and Tiffany, and others, will all represent Florida as delegates, where their father currently resides and casts his ballot. The Republican National Convention will take place for 3 days from the 15th of July before the election in November, which will be a rematch between Trump and President Joe Biden. The strongest solar storm in over 20 years has hit Earth, causing breathtaking celestial light displays in the skies from Tasmania to Britain and raising the possibility of interference with satellites and electricity systems. The Space Weather Prediction Center of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reports that shortly after 1600 hours GMT, the first of multiple coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, which is an expulsion of plasma and magnetic fields from the sun, occurred. Later on, it was elevated to an extreme geomagnetic storm, the first since the infamous Halloween storms of October 2003, which destroyed power infrastructure in South Africa and caused blackouts in Sweden. Over the next few days, more CMEs are predicted to strike Earth. Those were the top stories at this hour. Do join us, same time Monday, and have a great weekend.